The subway car jolted slightly as it pulled out of 77th Street, humming with the low murmur of early morning commuters. People stared blankly at their phones or nodded off against cold metal poles, the rhythmic clatter tracks beneath them offering no comfort. But amidst the grays and silences of the train was Caroline Grace Mitchell, 27, dressed in a navy blazer 2 sizes too big and clutching a worn folder to her chest like it held the last of her dreams. She had no idea how she'd gotten here. Well, she did. She'd taken the downtown line, changed at Lexington, but she meant life. The last 6 months had been a spiral. Laid off from her advertising job, her mother's health bills piling up, and rejection letters that stacked like bricks in her inbox. Her savings were gone, hope nearly with it. Today's interview felt like a final thread. She was either catching this break or everything unraveled. A sharp squeal of the brakes at 59th Street jerked the train and her thoughts. She looked down and noticed something small roll across the floor, bumping against her shoe. A bright yellow plastic giraffe. Warm but smiling. Caroline bent down instinctively, scooping it up. "Giraffe!" A tiny voice squealed a few seats down. A toddler with curly brown hair, wearing a bright red puffer jacket, reached his hands out with urgent, wobbly fingers. His father, a tall, tired-looking man in his late 30s, sighed in relief. "Oh, thank God! He would have had a meltdown," the father said, offering Caroline a grateful smile as she walked over and placed a toy in the little boy's hand. "No problem," she said with a soft smile. "Giraffes are important." The boy beamed, hugging the toy. The father looked at her, really looked. "I haven't seen you before. Headed to work." She shook her head. "Interview. Midtown. Ad agency." His brow quirked. "Ah, the creative battlefield. I've lived there too." The train lurched again. He glanced down at his phone. "You know," he said carefully, "I run a small media firm. We just lost someone on our campaign team. If your portfolio's in that folder, would you mind letting me see it?" Caroline blinked. "What?" He chuckled. "Sorry, I know that sounds sketchy. My name's Miles Conroy. I run Lighthouse Collective. Small but growing. We do nonprofit and brand identity campaigns. The toy giraffe just saved my son from a meltdown. So maybe karma wants to do something nice in return." Heart-pounding. She handed over the folder. He skimmed it as the train thundered through the tunnels. His eyes narrowed, focused. "This campaign concept. Did you do this solo?" he asked, holding up a mock ad for a literacy nonprofit. "All of it," she nodded. "Copy, visuals, layout. It never got approved before the company shut down." He let out a long whistle. "It should have. You got serious instincts." Caroline tried to hide the emotion rising in her throat. He flipped to the back. "Can you come in tomorrow? Even just freelance to start?" She blinked again. Are you serious?" "Dead serious." He smiled and reached for his son. "You picked up a toy on the subway. Most people wouldn't have noticed. That tells me something about how you see the world." The train pulled into Grand Central. Her stop, she stepped off with shaking hands and a fluttering heart. For the first time in months, she felt seen, not just as someone desperate for a break, but as someone capable. The next day, the office of Lighthouse Collective felt like another planet. Exposed brick walls, laughing creatives, whiteboards filled with possibility. Caroline sat at a desk with a loaner laptop, and her name scribbled on a sticky note. They didn't ask her to get coffee or make copies. Instead, Miles sat beside her and said, "This is our campaign brief. I want your brain on it." She worked like her life depended on it, because it did. Over the next few weeks, her temporary spot became permanent. Her design sparked client interest. Her scripts were crisp, humane, and emotionally moving. She wasn't just working. She was creating again. The fire that had dimmed inside her now roared with warmth. But it was a little boy, Elliot, who became her heart's surprise. She often stopped by Miles's home to drop off files, and Elliot would run to her yelling, "Giraffe lady." Her heart melted every time. One evening, months later, she joined the Conroys for dinner. Elliot clutched her hand and proudly showed her his toy collection. Miles's wife had passed away 2 years before, and he was doing his best as a single dad. Do you ever think about how tiny things change everything? Miles asked as they sat sipping coffee. Caroline nodded. Like a giraffe toy rolling across a subway car? He smiled. Exactly. I mean, you didn't have to pick it up. Most people would have ignored it. But not you. She looked down at her hands. It just felt like the right thing to do. And because of that one moment, he said, I gained a team member I didn't know I needed. And Elliot gained someone he now calls his favorite person. Caroline's eyes welled with tears. I think, he added, you changed more lives than your own that day. A year passed. Caroline was now the creative lead at Lighthouse. Her work had been featured in Adweek, and she'd been invited to speak at a local university about storytelling through empathy. As she stood in front of the room filled with nervous college seniors, she began with, I want to tell you about the day everything changed for me. It wasn't at a fancy office or during a big pitch. It was on a subway train when I picked up a little yellow giraffe. She saw them lean in. She told them everything about rejection, hopelessness, kindness, and the random magic of the universe when you lead with compassion. It's easy to think the big moments define your path, she said. But sometimes it's the smallest acts, the ones nobody notices, that change everything. A girl in the front row wiped her eyes. Caroline smiled gently. That night, as she rode the subway home, a woman dropped her scarf as she exited. Caroline stood up, called after her, and handed it back just in time. The woman paused and said, Thank you. That was my mother's. Caroline smiled. It looked important. As the doors closed, she looked down the length of the train. The world kept rushing by. But in moments like these, she had learned to slow down, to pay attention. And that was the secret. Compassion wasn't about grand gestures. It lived in seconds. A toy on a train, a scarf caught in the wind, a hand reaching out in passing. Caroline Mitchell never imagined her life would change because of a toddler's plastic giraffe. But it did. And in the years to come, she would teach others, through her work, her kindness, and her presence, that every small act of humanity matters. Because sometimes all it takes to rewrite your future is to pick something up when no one else will.